Hey, Joe here, Profit First Reseller. I'm going to talk about something with you today, and it ties into the reason why I'm very hesitant to give advice to other people. I'm building a shelf here while we talk. You know, on this YouTube channel, I love sharing the journey, and I want to try to be as honest as I can about every step of the way here. But I'm very hesitant to tell people this will work for you, or everyone should try this, and certainly not quit your job, and certainly not you should do eBay full time. So I want to go into a little bit of my thought process as to why I feel so uncomfortable talking about that kind of stuff, or being in a position of a mentor or a guru in any way. And what it ties back into at the end of the day is something called survivorship bias. Survivorship bias. There's a lot of great articles all about it, great Wikipedia section about it. What it comes down to is just because you made it, it doesn't mean that you have something to offer. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. It just might come down to the fact that you're lucky. You might have done some things right, some things wrong, but just because you're one of the ones that made it, and that's where survivorship bias comes into play. And it really, really comes into play when it comes to social media. And what I mean by that is, it's easy to talk about the wins, but a lot of people are quiet about the failures. And especially that is magnified on social media, right? Where it's a lot more common to see people talking about their business successes, but I think that it would help everyone reframe the world if there was actually an accurate representation of all the failures. If all those business failures all posted just as much on social media and were just as pushed into our feeds, all the way up into the point to where they would say, we've closed down. But a lot of those failures are quiet. And I think that's where social media can kind of amplify some of these biases that already exist in general due to the way the humans work or the way society works. I'm not exactly sure why people tend to fall into these biases, these loops that may or may not be helpful or you know, help us to understand each other in an honest way. So what I mean by survivorship bias, let me take a step back. If you look at some classic examples of survivorship bias, one of them is there was a researcher, I think his name was also Joseph, I'm also a Joseph, who was testing patients or testing these people in the study for extrasensory perception, ESP, like kind of psychic powers. So he had these cards with these kind of obscure symbols or shapes on them, and he'd hold them facing the subject of these tests to test for all these people for ESP powers. And he would ask them to describe what's on the other side of the card, and he would kind of whittle it down until eventually he found a couple of people that had passed multiple rounds of these tests where the people providing the test would hold these cards and ask them to describe what they saw. And there were a few people that got a lot of right answers. I don't know if there were 6 or 7 rounds of interrogation where they'd test their ESP and see if these people were able to identify what was behind the other side of those cards. And this research, I think, got published and people talked about it as if, you know, it was proof of ESP for a while. Until I think some reviews happened. And what was noticed on maybe the reviews of this research about psychic powers, was that the effective sample size was not really taken into account. So there were so many people, hundreds of people that took this ESP test that actually, if you look at it from a statistical kind of probability perspective, you would actually expect a couple of people to pass this test just randomly by chance. And there were only so many cards that were shown, and it is possible to guess by random chance what was shown. And if you test enough people, it is possible to get someone to look like they have some completely improbable amount. Like the chances of one person, actually getting all those questions right might be 1 out of 1,000. But if you test 1,000 people, you're going to expect one person to have gotten to the end purely by random chance. So I want to bring this back to eBay. What does this have to do with eBay? Well, just because someone made it to full-time eBay selling doesn't mean that they have the secret ingredient that is repeatable for anyone else. It just means that they made it. That's all it means. There's nothing else that needs to be taken, I think, from that. And I think what we need to look at is, scientifically, are there patterns among maybe all of the business successes? Can we extract statistically some patterns over time? And that starts to look like serious studies of business and business principles. And why I tend to think about in larger terms of business principles, the things that I can actually learn. Because I'm just assuming a lot of my success is just dumb luck. I do try a lot of things, but that doesn't mean I have anything to teach. And something that really has like kept me honest recently is I kind of gave myself a thought experiment. I was like, even if I was to give myself all the advice, if I was to go back 20 years to 18-year-old me and say, here's all the skills that I've learned, all about eBay selling, here's how to do this and that, I think I might be successful, but I have no idea, because if I wasn't able to find sourcing, I would have failed. And a lot of finding sourcing is luck. It's just being in the right place at the right time. The thing, you can increase your chances by increasing the number of dice rolls, by meeting more people, making more calls. But a lot of it is still luck. There's a lot of unknown variables there. And it's really hard to extract, especially from your own life, a single anecdote, a single narrative, exactly what you did that's led to your success. You can say, here I am. And so that's where I'm way more comfortable on this channel saying, here's what I've done. But being aware of survivorship bias has caused me to reconsider my place in YouTube, right? I think I'm firmly in my lane of not giving anyone advice and just sharing the journey. So that kind of makes sense. I don't know, this is kind of a rant here, but survivorship bias, something I've been thinking about a lot. And it comes down to the reason why I'm very uncomfortable giving y'all advice here. I'm way more comfortable showing you what I'm doing and then offering and saying, hey, here it is. You can take it or not, but I think that I don't feel like I'm a business expert. I feel like I'm just one person experiencing a journey. Man, I'm getting like really hippie here. Maybe it's this shirt. I got space. I'm thinking big today, but survivorship bias is the reason why I think that we need to be very careful about giving other people advice. Just because you've achieved some amount of success, I think you need to be able to statistically show that you've extracted some principles that can be repeated, because so much of this is just random chance here. So much of business, so much of life is just meeting the right people, being in the right place at the right time. Not all of it is repeatable. I think we kind of discount a lot of those factors. So I just appreciate you guys. This YouTube channel seems like just one of those random things. I did not expect this YouTube channel to be as successful as it has been. I'm so grateful for you guys. And that really fires me up. But I think I'm going to try to stay firmly in my lane. I want to keep firmly so fired up, because I don't feel like there's any limits to just sharing the journey and seeing where I'm going. I've spent a couple of days creating a website with AI. I'm reading an excellent fantasy series called Mistborn. And I'm creating a website called spoilerfreecharacterguide.com with the help of some AI. It's probably completely broken right now, but it's been a fun journey, because I'm reading Mistborn and there's a lot of characters, and I want to be able to choose the chapter that I'm in and then generate a list of all the characters featured in that chapter, and to help me remind me who they are, what's happened up to this point, but not feature any spoilers that haven't been revealed up to that chapter in the book. And hopefully I hope to add other epic fantasy series like Dune and Stormlight Archive and Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. So it's a fun little experiment. I'm basically generating a wiki, but in like the stupidest way possible. But yeah, I'm just kind of letting this channel be a reflection of who I am. I don't feel like I need to be an expert, and so I need to have all my ducks in a row before I'm like sharing something with y'all. I'm just kind of sharing what I'm working on. Today I'm working on building shelves, as you can see here, and just optimizing. This place is a mess, so today is mostly going to be organizing and optimizing and that boring behind the scenes stuff, but getting ready to make some money. When I see clean spaces, I'm going to fill it up with stuff to make money, but when I see clutter, that's just a lot of jobs and stuff that needs to get sorted through. So I've got some items that do need to get listed, but they're the ones that, you know, they can kind of become a death pile. But while they're out here, and first time I'm touching them, you know, after they've charged up, I've got some stuff on the charging station. So that's the next step. The last video, I was picking through the bin, stuff like, you know, a virtual reality headset, this Oculus thing, and some headsets and some tablets. So now that they've been charging for 24 hours, my next step today here is just going to be testing these out and then getting them listed and getting this area clean. Essentially, I'm tricking myself. I'm going to be listing 10, 20, maybe 30 items that are just kind of scattered around here that I haven't quite gotten up on my store yet. They're in various levels of processing, but almost all the way there. And I'm just convincing myself I'm just cleaning my room, but actually I'm going to be doing a good amount of listing, and then I can actually get to the real listing. This is how you kind of trick yourself. I got like a personal trainer in my head who's like, yeah, come on, just one more rep. You're like, okay, two more reps. You got this. And like, you can actually do way more than you think if you kind of break up the work into small chunks. So anyway, this is my ADD rambling for today. Maybe I'll make another video later. I mean, I certainly will at some point. I mean, like maybe I'll make another video later today. I'm feeling chatty, but I wanted to get this little video out specifically about my thoughts on survivorship bias and just essentially why I'm bringing this up. Just because I'm a successful eBay seller doesn't mean that I know how to teach people about being a successful eBay seller, right? The fact that I'm a successful eBay seller to whatever degree, that only means that I have gotten here. It doesn't mean that I could even repeat it if I had a chance again. I think a lot of it was literally just luck and right place, right time kind of stuff. So just trying to stay humble over here. I just appreciate y'all. You're all keeping me honest. I appreciate the comments. Just a lot of like honest feedback into what I'm doing, my processes, my life, and thank you. I'm grateful to y'all. So Joe here, Profit First Reseller. Thank you again. I'll see you in the comments. I do have way more comments to address. I addressed almost all my unresponded to comments in a video that got deleted. So I'm going to do it again, and then I'm going to respond to those comments. But I do read them all, and I do appreciate all of you. And I'll see you there in the comment section. Until next time, peace.